Guys, welcome into 2.5 now. We're talking about the heading indicator and the magnetic compass, something we're going to get very familiar with in our flight training, especially on our long VFR cross countries. First, I want you to know that the heading indicator goes by two names, and you'll hear me use both interchangeably. A lot of CFIs do that. They'll sometimes call it the heading indicator. You'll also sometimes hear it called the directional gyro. The heading indicator, or directional gyro, whatever you want to call it, operates on the vacuum system, just like our attitude indicator. Our attitude indicator and our heading indicator are the two instruments that operate on our vacuum system. It's important to know too, it's also gyroscopic. It also works on that gyroscopic precession. That's what happens inside our heading indicator. I'll show you more inside of it here in just a second. But let's talk now for a moment about the magnetic compass. Now, the magnetic compass works to find magnetic north. However, it's prone to quite a few errors that we're going to learn about in future lessons, like turning errors, deviation errors, and installation errors. In fact, if you look at the image of that magnetic compass there, you'll see the deviation card. And if you zoom in on it, it'll say something along these lines. If you want a 030 heading, you need to really steer 027 degrees. And that's because how the radios and our headsets and all these other magnets interact with our magnetic compass. That's really what that deviation is there for. There's also the deviation between true north and magnetic north that we calculate for. And we're going to deal a lot with those deviations and those turning errors in future lessons. But here's what I want you to really remember and really take away from this, because remember that heading indicator operates on the vacuum system. So it's important to get in the habit of matching your heading indicator with your magnetic compass on a regular basis. For example, if you pull the airplane out of the hangar, and you pull it out of the hangar and onto whatever the ramp is, you make a 90-degree turn, your heading indicator isn't going to move. In fact, the magnetic compass is going to move, but the heading indicator is going to stay on whatever heading it was when you shut it down. It needs that engine-driven vacuum pump running to make that happen and to work. And you can see kind of inside of our heading indicator here. You can see it works on that same principle of a top trying to hold itself there. And you can see how it spins as that top tries to hold level, no matter which way you actually hold it here. And you can see too, here's our little rod where we can push in and we can adjust that to reset it and make that adjustment. But when that engine is off, and I hold this here, and there's no suction moving it, well, no matter which heading I move to, this doesn't move. As opposed to when I get that suction and I adjust my headings, my heading indicator can move. So remember, there's a top inside of this, just like there is with our vacuum system. Just like there, with our attitude indicator. Both operate on the vacuum system and both have gyros like tops inside of them. Remember, it's so important to always be adjusting and see the difference between the magnetic compass and your heading indicator.